Recently I picked up two very cheap Nikkor lenses, and they're cheap for very good reasons. They both have problems. So the first of these lenses is the 50mm f1.8 lens. This is the non-D version. So I picked this lens up for around 20 quid, and condition wise it actually works fine. However, it does have that sort of dirty, slightly moldy smell where it's been, sitting in a bag under the stairs for the last 25 years. The other issue with this lens is that it has quite a bit of fungus in its elements. So I need to take this lens apart, clean it up so it actually looks much better, and I also need to clean the optics to get rid of the fungus. After that lens, I'm going to move on to this lens. Now this lens is very cool. This is an original 2.8 centimeter Nikkor H f-mount lens for the original Nikon F. And what makes this lens special is the fact that it is a 2.8 centimeter lens, which means that this is the kind of first production run, or one of the early production runs. This lens probably was made in between 1964 and 1967, most likely, based on the serial numbers and the style of lens and the different lens markings and variants and stuff. You can look all this up online. But it is one of the original Nikon F lenses. When it comes to this lens's issues, there are three major ones. One, it's just kind of dirty. Two, it is very fungusy in there, but it's not too bad fungus-wise. It is possible to repair it, I hope. But then the third issue is that the lens just needs to be taken apart and re-greased, because this focus ring is very stiff. And then the aperture ring then is also incredibly tight and difficult to turn. But all of the lens mechanics do work, including the aperture diaphragm pin, which is actually still very free and light and easy to use. So the lens is working, it just needs a bit of a cleanup, re-grease, and the optics to be cleared out as well. So that's our mission for this video. I have to put the lens upside down because the rear lens cap has fallen off and it's under the tripod. So with all of that, I've busted out my lens tools, and it is time to get cracking. Obviously, caps come off. So, something very important to know is that if you're working with Japanese tools and lenses, you need JIS standard instruments which have the correct Phillips head, because there's a difference between American and Japanese ones. So that's this group. So I need to make sure this lines up, so yeah. Put that aside, and now we have the main helicoid. Look at that precision manufacturing. And there you can see the spot of fungus inside it there. It's just sitting in there in those elements. If I can, there's a little bit of lacquer in here that I need to get rid of, so that's going to be done with a drop of isopropyl alcohol. Try and unscrew this. There she goes. And we can get at the fungus. Okay. And this is just for resting the lens elements on while we're working. So we're going to go rear down low. So element 1. And we can actually see the fungus on the rear lens element. So that'll be for cleaning. So check out this element. You can see this is actually a cemented element with a binding ring. So I don't know if the fungus is in between the elements though, because that'd be really bad if it was. But it appears to be right here on the rear. So we're going to put down a bit of lens tissue and put on this. And to clean the fungus, we're going to use some hydrogen peroxide, 3%. Okay, so just treated this with some peroxide, and it has turned out absolutely spotless. There's a spot of fungus on this lens element, and it is absolutely spotless now. Okay. Last element. On the retaining ring. Okay, so that's all lined up. So does this need to be disassembled, this group? You know what? I'm not going to disassemble the front group. I don't see any fungus in there. It looks clean. Instead, I'm just going to clean the front element, like so. There's no point disassembling a lens group if it doesn't need to be disassembled. The other one had to be because there was fungus in between the two elements, but this one looks good enough, so I'm just going to clean it. Blow dust off, then a lens brush. This just removes lens tissue. Just to soak up that water, and then we'll give it some isopropyl alcohol to finalize the treatment. That's much, much better. So with that done, we start the reassembly process. So sits in here. This is how the autofocus couples, so it's literally just spinning a little thing that rotates the helicoid, and that moves the elements back and forward to focus. It's very simple. According to my photography, this drops in like so. Yep, clicks are working. So now we're just going to drop in the coupling by taking this long pin lad here. This long pin here needs to go down into the feeder hole for the aperture to control it. And then we just get it fit over the focus gear, all locked in place. Okay, so that's definitely working. Let's try the aperture pin. So the diaphragm is working. Okay, so that's the rear section done. Now for the front section. Blow off the dust. Drop this down into the lens. And just put in our front screws. I am going to clean this front plate thing though in a little drop of water because I think it'll look much better with a bit of a scrub. It was kind of dusty and cruddy before, so. Focusing well, nice clicky aperture ring lock works, seems to be nice and clean, or as clean as I can get it, within reason. And the spot of fungus has been completely demolished. So, that is the 50mm lens done. Okay, so here we go. Time to work on the 2.8cm f3.5 lens. And as you can see, the focus ring is very stiff. I'm actually having difficulty turning it. It also has a tendency to get kind of stuck in places. And the aperture ring is very hard to work. I'm actually struggling really hard to get a grip tight enough for it to do. But if we force it down to f16, we can see that the aperture blades work quite nicely. I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but there is fungus in there for sure. That is our mission with this lens, to assemble, take out the old grease, put in fresh grease, and clean the fungus off the elements, all in one go. So let's take off this focusing ring. It's a very good idea to when you're working on stuff like this, to have a notebook. Okay, there we go. Wow, that's some dry ass grease in there, and under it's stuck. So now what I understand is that there's 3 tiny screws in here that need to come out, and each one pops out, and when that happens, the entire lens group of the lens will just lift clean out. And now our lens group will just lift out, clean out, and that is the entire lens assembly. And in here we have the helicoils and all the horrible stuff. So I've got the diaphragm here. You'll notice that's not spring loaded inside the assembly, and that's because the spring is actually located in here, we should be able to see all of the fungus and crud in there that we need to clean out. And undoing these screws is such a pain in the butthole. There we go. Okay, so those obnoxiously tiny screws are now out. So I should just be able to lift this off. I'll remove that nice and easy. Okay. And amazingly, they look like decently chunky screws. Okay, so from the position of the pin mark, it's going to be 1 turn, 2, so 4 3/4 turns. And there's the helicoil, one of the helicoils. There's another one on the inside. So to take the aperture ring off, we need to remove 1 screw, and that will hold, and then we can just unscrew the whole ring. So now we've that one screwed. 2, 3, 8, 8. That is all the helicoils and the aperture ring disassembled now. So all we just got to do is clean up all the threads, clean up everything, re-grease everything, and reassemble. Into the bottle of alcohol. Alcohol is used, by the way, because it cleans really nicely. Cleans grease and stuff really well. Breaks down oils. You can see all the little marks? They indicate the aperture stops. But see the way there's 2 really close together? That's for f3.5 and f4. Back into the pot of alcohol, and I just hurt my finger. Fuck, I hurt that fucking scar on my finger. I drove a chisel into my finger when I was 10. And it caused a nerve damage in my knuckle. So if I hit here too hard, I get sharp pains. And that's something I just gotta live with. You can actually see the scars from it. It's funny, that's the second time that knuckle got damaged. The first time was with a jigsaw. It's just, oh my god. So this is what it looks like before a bit of alcohol and after. It's gonna clean out all that grease. I don't think anyone in the Nikkor assembly line that day, this lens was made in the late 60s, mid to late 60s, would have thought that their work would be disassembled by an Irish guy in Ireland, oddly enough, in 2022 for re-greasing and cleaning. And we're going to clean the depth of field scale because it's just grubby and it's an outside element, so I want it to be nice and shiny. Because why not? While we're at it, we might as well clean the rest of the parts. Okay, so now we're on to the reassembly. Did about 1/3 of a turn, so I should start here somewhere. There we go, and then it's here, and then it's 8 1/4 turns. So there's the hole. Glue it into place. You can see that the inner and outer rings are turning simultaneously. Excellent. And that is, by the way, smooth. Make sure it's going to run as smooth as butter. So I need to grease the outside threads and the inner threads. Okay, so I got going, so it's 4 3/4 turns, so it's 1, 2, in you go. It's 1. Thank God of a magnetic screwdriver. 2. And now that's in place. Off scale, and just put it at position 16. Line up so the holes line up. This little bar here couples with this inner part of focusing ring, so when these line up, just tighten those down. Just nip them, we don't need to tighten up too tight, they're very fine threaded. And holy crap, that is a smooth action. We need to clean these lens elements, which means I need to disinfect my workspace so I don't get any dust in it, and set up to disassemble a lens. Okay, so first step in this is to take off this rear cap. So I put this one here, and there she goes. That's element number 2. So that one's clear. That one is fungus free, that's good. Next element is the one with fungus. And there she goes. Yeah, you can see the aperture there. So let's take a look at this under a torch. And yep, there's a spot of fungus. So these all need to be cleaned. So peroxide, let me just let it soak through. Clean, clean, clean. Let's see what we got. Most of the fungus is gone. There's a little bit on the edge I still need to get. That is a fungus-free element. That is beautiful. And that is like a goddamn mirror. That's element 1 cleaned. Next is element 2. A bit of tissue and just wipe around in circles just to take those marks off, or take those to dry off the element properly. Like a mirror, except for that tiny speck in the corner. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh wow, look at the inside. This is all fungusy. It's inside the cap. So yeah, I definitely need to clean that. So get all that fungus out of in here. And that's got rid of a lot of that. That's cleared out now. That's so gone. Okay. Yeah, there's marks on that rear element. That's been damaged. I thought that was dirt. That's much more serious. Damn it. I might need to find a parts lens to replace this element, but yeah, that's definitely either fungus etching or scratches. Not much I can do about that. It's good enough. There's no fungus on the front elements. I just need to clean the front element to make it shiny again. So we're going to reassemble this. Okay, just nip it. That's all we need to do. And we just nip her tight. We don't need to nip it down hard. Perfect. And blow her again. Okay. I will say, compared to before, it looks a lot better. So now we need to clean the front element. Okay. Just move that around carefully. That front element, by the way, was awfully dirty. There we have it, and holy crap, that is a lot cleaner. Like, damn, that's cleaner. That's the elements cleaned. Final assembly time. And there we go, it just dropped in very smoothly. I just twiddled the aperture diaphragm a touch. And now you can see how the aperture is linked up again. Now we're at minimum focus. I'm just going to do one quick check on the f3 to make sure that min focus is about right. So now it is time to put on the focus ring, and that means that infinity, so I can just line up the infinity mark. Like, even if you had an army of technicians to repair stuff like this, it's just incredibly difficult. 6 out of 10 would recommend learning how to repair your gear. Maybe not to the extent I've done it now, but definitely it's a worthwhile skill to have. There we go. Oh my god, that focus. Oh, that's as smooth as my 135. God damn. The aperture ring is butter as well. It appears to be working. Lovely and smooth. A lot better than it was. So that's it. The 2.8 centimeter f3.5 Nikkor H repaired. Now I have to clean up this fucking mess, like holy fuck.